about one of those headline stories now, and the Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources and Energy wanting, as I called it, this tax holiday on fuel products. It does sound like it's good news, especially considering we are expecting more fuel price increases in the next few months. Well, for more on this, let's find out actually what it is. I'm joined by the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources and Energy, Mr. Sahlulele Luzipo. Mr. Luzipo, good morning to you. Thank you very much for your time. So is this good news? When we talk about a tax holiday, I want to jump up and down with excitement. But what does it actually mean?
Look, good morning to you, Gareth, and the viewers at home. Look, what we were actually saying is that let's look at the different types of levies that we have on fuel and see whether we can get a reprieve of at least 2 to 3 months so that South Africans can break through the current crisis. We looked at the issue of fuel in two folds. We started with this process as early as last year when we were looking at the escalation of fuel prices. And amongst other things that we were looking at how do we mitigate against that. Now we are facing a new phenomenon, which is the conflict in the East. And it has now put more strain and requires an emergency intervention. So we're saying that government must look at an emergency intervention, amongst other things, is the issue of tax reprieve for a certain period of time so that at least South Africans can get a breather. But there are other proposals, for example, that we are suggesting. Amongst those is the issue of the location of the road accident fund. You will recall that the road accident fund is related to fuel, not to cars. We're saying, why don't we consider taking the road accident fund to where it belongs, which could be the Department of Transport, and it be related to the cars, not the fuel, so that you don't have, for an example, if you've got a generator at home and you go and buy fuel, then you have to pay the road accident. There is a deduction to the road accident fund, but there is no relationship between the generator and accidents on the road. So we say you can consider taking that, making that at the point of buying the car, in the same way carbon tax is, or at the renewal of license disc, it be linked to that.
You took the words out of my mouth because I was going to ask you, Sahlulele, about the road accident fund, the RAF in this case, but you've answered that question, so I won't go back to that one. For now, I'm curious, are you able to tell me and South Africans any kind of this tax holiday, this re-look at fuel levies? How much do you think we're going to save on fuel if you can get it right? What kind of reduction are we looking at? Give me a monetary value if you can.
Look, we have done, we have not go into details, but if you look, for example, the levies on their own, they cost about 6 rand something. We don't know if we were to get another increase. And therefore, on those bases, probably your fuel price will be quite a bit lower if you were to minus from 20 rands. Let's just make an example. You minus rand 80 from 20 rands, it means you'll be left with it could go a long way. But obviously it is also subject and dependent whether the executive, in particular the National Portfolio Committee, but we said that must be done through the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy in consultation or in his engagement with his counterpart in the National Treasury.
Just before I let you go, Sahlulele, the line is starting to go on me quickly, so I just want to put this last question to you before I lose you. What's the timeline on this? Just tell me when these recommendations are going to be put forward. What's your timeline quickly?
Look, we're adopting the report on Friday of the committee, and then it will be submitted to Parliament. Parliament will decide, but obviously we have said that in the second quarter, at least the department must be able to report back on progress made. That means as early within this month of April, around the 14th or so, the department must be able to give us a progress going forward. But you will also understand the fact that that's how, unfortunately, the portfolio committees of Parliament operate. The only challenge is that we are now faced with an emergency. It's no longer a matter that we could say, if we were to find a solution tomorrow, that would be an additional bonus to us, because now the situation is quite dire, and we don't think that we have got any time to play around. We need to find a solution as urgently as possible.
Yeah, a bonus, a tax holiday, a reprieve. We'll take anything we can at this point. Mr. Sahlulele Luzipo, Portfolio Committee on Mineral and Resources Energy. He is the chairperson of that. It's some good news, at least. We could be looking at some kind of reduction if this gets adopted by Parliament. Even if it's a few rand, maybe it's the levy, maybe it is. It's a very good point from Mr. Luzipo about the road accident fund being moved away from fuel pricing to perhaps being taken into and absorbed by the pricing of cars or license discs. It's a very, very good suggestion as well. But we're going to stay on top of that. But I appreciate Mr. Sahlulele Luzipo's time this morning.